Welcome to the Dawn Jarvis Show with Dawn Jarvis, the diverse nurse. And in this podcast, we will be talking about healthcare, self-care, diversity, careers, and well-being from a Black woman's perspective. We're really happy that you're here. So if you're ready, let's get on with the show.
Welcome to the Dawn Jarvis Show. My guest today is Rosetta Thurman, somebody I've known for 2 or 3 years now. I was part of her mastermind, had a fantastic time. And I can also say that Rosetta was the inspiration for me starting my journey as a business owner. Welcome, Rosetta. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. I was just saying before we got on that I was in the midst of a transition. So we're in the midst of moving and, this whole time of year, going into the fall is all about transition and I'm feeling the fall vibes for sure in life and business and everything else. So I'm excited to do this interview today and share with your audience. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Rosetta is the founder of the Happy Black Woman, and she's a Black woman's empowerment brand. She's a coach and a mentor, and she teaches Black women how to manifest their life and business of their dreams, which is something that I know about and have experienced of you. So Rosetta, tell us a little bit about that, how you came to have this fantastic brand, what was your journey?
Well, in a nutshell, I was an accidental entrepreneur. I didn't wake up one day and say, I want to build this $1 million brand for Black women. I did not. Actually, Happy Black Woman came out of my personal experience in starting a business and going natural. I started this blog back in 2010, so long ago now, about my journey to become a happy Black woman. And I think that with personal development, it's always a journey. We're always on this journey, but I wanted to document it. I had just quit my job. I was running my business full time. I was in the thick of it. I was making a lot of life changes. And so originally my blog was called The Diary of a Happy Black Woman. And so I was really documenting all the different things. I was dating in Washington, D.C. And so all of these things I was writing about. And the cool thing is that as I was writing about all this stuff, other women started, writing in and making comments and saying, I had experience too, or I'm doing that too, or I'm, wanting to travel. Also, I'm in the midst of, starting my own business. And so we quickly created this incredible community. And, over time, people start asking me to do workshops and to give them advice about things. And then I was like, I kind of like doing this Happy Black Woman thing more than my business, because I had a nonprofit consulting business at the time. And so it just goes to show that sometimes your passion project, the thing you do on the side of the thing that pays the bills, can actually end up being your main thing. And
Absolutely.
So, a few years later, I said, Happy Black Woman is going to be my business. I want to focus on personal development and entrepreneurship training for Black women. And the rest is history.
When did you realize that so that I do some work as a consultant and I want to also major on the sort of personal development side, because that's what I call my passion project. When did you realize that was the sort of personal development and that sort of like Happy Black Woman vibe was actually your main business and you were going to switch to doing that in the main? Was there a sort of moment?
Yeah. A lot of people think that before you make the decision, and you actually don't know. I didn't know what Happy Black Woman was going to be. I said, I'm going to make it. So really was a decision. I made the decision to shut down my consulting business and go 100% with Happy Black Woman full time. I didn't know anything. I mean, I just knew what I wanted to do. And I think that that's all we ever know. You don't know anything. If the last year has taught any of us anything, it's that what we thought we knew, we didn't know.
Too true.
The people who are supposed to know, they don't even know what's going on, So it's like, you just need to do what you want to do and trust that it's going to work out no matter what. And that's what I did. And so Happy Black Woman, I think I always tell people is that it became successful because I decided it was going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the joy of it and it's really obvious that you enjoy it. And I think that's for me, even with the consulting and giving it my sort of like corporate job, it's what I was meant to do, and I really, really enjoy it. So I think the joy of it, and I think the best thing about it is that you are actually making money doing the thing that you would do for free in some ways. So sure. So it's a bit of a journey, isn't it? But I think it's a bit of a leap. And you talked about leaving your full-time job and starting your consulting business, and you've had to have that leap of faith. And where do you get the resilience, I guess, to sort of like go with the courage of your convictions? Because I think I know a lot of people who would love to be doing what you're doing. I was a person who would have loved, and I'm loving doing what you role modeled. So where do you get your resilience, your faith? Knowing what you're doing is the right thing to do.
Well, I know that, from being in, the Six-Figure Queen mastermind and making the leap yourself, that there's all these feelings that come up when you make a decision that is maybe unconventional, or what other people might not do, or maybe what is, unknown, right? There's all these fears that comes up. There's all these doubts. There's all these, what if it doesn't work? And I honestly think that the biggest tool, the biggest thing that we can have in our toolbox as Black women, as entrepreneurs, is faith. Without faith, you're going to go crazy, because there is no outside force that's going to say, Dawn, this is going to work for you. Go for it. And a lot of times we're looking for that external validation, that external force, that external, permission to say that now is the time, but there really isn't. And so for me, it's always been about my faith. I am a spiritual person. I don't consider myself to be religious, but I'm very spiritual, and I have a personal connection, relationship with God. And for me, my faith allows me to make moves forward without a debilitating fear. The fear is there, the nervousness is there, it never goes away, but without the debilitating or, something that paralyzes me to say, well, I'm not going to do it because I don't know what's going to happen. I move forward and say, I'm going to do it because I know no matter what happens, God's got me. Everything is going to be okay. I've always been okay. And if I'm not okay, I figure out how to be okay. There's nothing that we could ever do that's going to break us, right? There's nothing that could ever happen that we can't get out of, right? And so a lot of times we act like, making these decisions to follow our dreams and to follow the path we know is meant for us. We act like, they're life or death decisions when they're actually not. A life or death decision is a life or death decision. This is not, making the decision to quit your job is not life or death. If it doesn't work out, you get another one. Jobs are a dime a dozen. Everybody's hiring now. I mean, come on, right?
Too true.
So it's really about having that faith. What does your faith do? Like, how do you navigate your faith when you don't know? Because faith is not really faith until you can make a decision not knowing what's on the other side. That's the definition of faith.
Absolutely.
Right? So I feel like that's what keeps me going.
That's fantastic and good to know. And I think it is just a feeling, and to be confident in yourself. And I think a lot of the things that you teach and you coach around are around confidence and mindset, and to be the woman that you want to be, to live the life of your dreams, as you say. And what do you think goes into sort of like getting that mindset? I know you teach a lot about mindset, and it's the big thing. And it's a mindset not only about following your dreams, but it's a mindset about money and limiting beliefs. And I know you talk about the lizard brain, sort of that sort of nagging doubt in your head. So how do you? I mean, I do know because I've been working with you, but for the benefit of our listeners, how do you get yourself into that mindset where sort of everything is possible?
Right. Well, you as well as anyone else knows that everything starts in our minds, right? Everything starts in here. And so when I think about my journey to becoming a happy Black woman, and I'm still on that journey until the day I die, right? It's always a becoming more and more of who I'm meant to be. But when you think about where the journey begins, people think the journey begins when the step is taken, or the journey it begins when you get to where you're going, and then you can live your life. But that's not true. It's all wrong. People have got it all wrong. The journey begins in your head. And so one of my favorite personal development books is Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. It's a classic, you know.
I have it.
It was written way before any of us were born. So Think and Grow Rich, right? So one of the chapters, I think it's chapter 6, he talks about desire. And he talks about desire being the starting point of all achievement. And when you think about where desire lives in your head and your heart. So if everything starts from desire, it doesn't start with, you know, what happens out there. It starts with what's going on in here, what's going on inside of you. And so when we think about, you know, why people don't do what they want to do, and it's like, oh, I don't have the willpower. I don't have no, you don't have the right mindset. So what's going on in your mind? So what I love to do is get into the mindset of my vision, get into the mindset, get into the energy of what it is that I want, get connected to my dream. So many of us are disconnected from it. So what happens is a thought comes in. I would love to start my business and quit my job. I would love to travel the world. I would love to, you know, take my family on a dream vacation. I would love to do all these different things. I would love to transform, you know, my body and lose 20 pounds and, you know, fit this, you know, sexy bikini. I would love to do these things. And so that's the thought that happens. But instead of the thought turning into action immediately, more thoughts come in, and more thoughts are like, well, you're crazy. Where are you going to get that kind of money? You know, nobody in your family has that. You know, who do you think you are? You know, do you really think that that's going to work? All these doubting thoughts start coming in. And that's what we're fighting against, is really the mindset of it. And so for me, what's most useful is when I get into that mindset, instead of saying, oh, you know, do you really think that's going to happen? Before the inner critic can even take hold, I really engage with the dream. I engage with the goal. So when I have a goal, I start writing about the goal. I start journaling about the dream. What a lot of people do, and I think that this is so detrimental to our mindset. What a lot of people do is they write about their fears. They write about, you know, all the things that tick them off and all of that in their journal. So their journal is filled with nothing but negativity, and they open it over and over again every day. Letting that negative energy come into your space every day. But what I prefer to do is when I get a dream, when I get a goal, I like to write about it as if it's already happening.
Yeah.
And so some people call this scripting. I just call it manifestation journaling.
Absolutely.
So I journal about what I want to manifest. And when you do that, your mind starts to change. And so you start to train your brain, start to train your mind to think about when a thought comes in about a goal or a vision or a dream, it immediately goes to how amazing it's going to be when you get it, instead of thinking about how crappy it's going to be when you fail. Right. And so I'm just trained to do that. So I can get excited immediately. You know, I go to 0 to 100 real quick because there's nothing that's taking me out of it. There's nothing that's like, you can't do it. Like my mind is already trained to go forward and be like, okay, so how can we do this? Because I know it's going to work. If I do it, it's going to work. It's just a matter of time. So what we can start doing is, instead of thinking about all the reasons why your goal is not going to work or your dream is not going to get there, it's about, how can you engage with it? How can you engage with the energy of how good it's going to feel when you have it, and act as if it's going to happen?
Love that, because I think it's such a positive way to go. And some of my consulting work, I've done things like appreciative inquiry, where you actually go, where's the best practice? Where do they do this really well? And in my consulting, I say, so if there's a problem, where do they do it good? You know, let's go and have a look at that place. Let's look at the research where it worked. And that's sort of like that. That's what you're saying. So if the best thing that was happening, what would be happening? How would you feel? I love the fact that you say it's about the feeling, because that means that everything is good, because you're sort of like working towards your goals. So I really, really love this. Now, you mentioned earlier that the pandemic has been difficult for everybody, and I know that I noticed with you that, you know, I came to see you in Florida actually just before the pandemic broke, and you had a plan and that you were going to do it, and then the pandemic happened and you completely pivoted your business online and did the whole thing. You didn't miss a beat. So I think there's a lot to be learned from that. Rosetta, how did you do that? You saw the storm coming. You thought, oh no, I'm going to sort it out. I'm going to get new sails. I'm going to build a bigger boat. I don't know how you did it, but you did it, and I watched you do it. So any guidance for our listeners and our viewers around how to cope with terrible uncertainty.
Uncertainty, uncertainty is life. Life is an uncertain existence. We exist in an uncertain world. Certainty, and I was telling this to a client the other day, certainty is actually the illusion. We live in an illusion of certainty. And we learned last year just how uncertain it was. But we've lived in this illusion of institutions are going to be there and things are going to work how they're supposed to work. And they didn't. We live in this illusion of, our relationships are going to be there. And then ask any woman who got hit with divorce papers unexpectedly, like, did you see that coming? It's like, there's so many things that we think are certain, people, jobs, they lost jobs. But I thought this was a secure job. Nothing is secure. Nothing is certain. And so when you live in the truth of that nothing is certain, anything can happen at any time, it really doesn't take a lot to pivot. So I had my grieving moment, just like everyone else, is like, dang, I can't, travel. I can't do the events I had planned for my business. What's going on with my clients, right? Because, other people are trying to figure out what's going on with their job and with their business and with all of this. And, so I went through that, panic stage, just like everyone else, and just trying to figure out what's going on. And then realizing that no matter what is going on, whether it is a pandemic or it is an unexpected situation in your life, you still get to move forward with what you want to do. It just may look different. It just may not be how you originally planned it. And so a lot of people, when things look different, they completely scrap the vision. They just scrap the dream. They scrap the goal instead of trying to go about a different way of doing it. So no matter what happens, I'm going to make my money. I'm going to make an impact. I'm going to make a difference. I'm going to experience amazing things in my life. It doesn't matter. So lockdown meant that you can't leave, but that doesn't mean that you can't have an experience of a good life still, right? So that was sort of a recalibration for me in terms of, what does it look like now? So when people lose a job, a lot of times they just fall into this deep depression, and it is, a very difficult thing to deal with. But the funk lasts longer when you don't see another way out. And so a lot of people, they didn't see another way of doing things because they're so used to the way they were doing things. They were so used to this certainty. So it's the same thing with any life change that happens, is that you got to feel your feelings for sure. You can't bypass your feelings. You got to cry, you got to scream, you got to punch the air and all of that and feel what you feel. But at the end of the day, you also have to realize that this life is so short. You can't waste too much time in that place of, I'm having a pity party. Things are not going my way. And it's like, well, join the club. It's kind of like if you ask a person across the world, who's still trying to get an education and come to America, or trying to, make something of themselves, they don't want to hear that. You have to honor the life that you have been given. And what I believe to my core is that if you have been given a vision for your life, if you have been given a dream in your heart, then God has already given you the tools to manifest it, to create it, to experience it. And it may not look like how you thought it was going to look, but you still get to have it. And that's one thing that I always carry with me, is that no matter what happens, I still get to have what I want. And even regardless of external circumstances, even with mistakes that you might make. Oh, I didn't get it right the first time. Well, I'm still alive. So that means I get another chance, right?
Absolutely.
So when you move forward like that, external circumstances don't bother you as much, or, doors shutting in your face don't bother you as much, because you know that you're going to get what you want in the end.
That's brilliant. Absolutely wonderful. So I've got a couple more questions for you. So one is a celebration and a congratulations. You got married this year, and
I did.
And I know that that was a massive part of your life. And I know there was a big journey about finding your boo and sort of and then getting married. So congratulations on that. And,
Thank you.
And I guess I want to say, and it goes back to lockdown as well, that lockdown didn't stop you getting married, but it must have made it different getting married.
Yeah, it was different for me. And I think that at the end of the day, it's important to understand what's the most important thing about this, right? Because for me, I never had, like a dream wedding idea. Like my dream wedding was, the man I'm standing next to,
Absolutely.
that's what makes the dream. And so we had people who wanted to be there. And it wasn't so much about, it's not perfect because everything can't be how we want it to be, but it's how do we want to mark this moment in time? What I'm very conscious of is, again, just the mortality of life. My mother in love passed away last year, and it was such a big wake up call. When someone close to you, when you lose someone close to you, it just really shows you the fragility of life. And it's like you can wait, and so many people are wait until the pandemic is over, and we see just how long this thing is dragging out. And it's like I don't want to lose the moment.
Absolutely.
I don't want to lose the opportunity, because there's no guarantee we're going to be here next year. I mean, just to be blunt about it,
Yeah.
I just want to live the moments that God has given us already. And hey, maybe one of our honeymoons can be in Hawaii. Like that would be where we want to be, in Hawaii. But maybe we can honeymoon there. God willing, we'll honeymoon all over the world. But that doesn't mean that our wedding can't be what it's going to be for right now. So I'm so glad that we captured the moment and we didn't wait, because who knows when it would have been perfect.
Yeah, too right. And it was wonderful. So there you go. And the pictures were fantastic, and the whole thing, and the sisterhood of it all. It was just great. It was wonderful. And sort of the last questions, because I know I'm a nurse, and I'm sort of like about health and well-being, and keeping mind and body and soul together. We've talked about resilience, but is there other things, has your health been affected? You talked about the loss of close ones and things like that, and that does have an impact on sort of like body and soul. And I just wonder, as an entrepreneur, how you take care of your health, of your well-being, and keeping it together. You're very inspirational, and you're very motivational and very positive. But do you have down days, and how do you move forward with that?
Yeah, I think it's a myth that to be successful and to be happy, that you have this constant state of happiness, and you have this constant state of everything is fine. You can know intellectually that everything is fine. I know intellectually everything is going to be all right. I know that in my soul. But does that mean that I don't have days when I'm like, what are we doing here? I just want to crawl under a bed. And of course I have, emotions. I have, all the things that women go through with our ups and downs and mood swings and everything. And that doesn't make me any less of a successful person, And so one of the things that has been so key for me in this journey, especially over the past year, has been having a therapist. I think that our mental health is so important. Our physical health is important as well. And I think there's, a few things that we all know to do is, to, drink water, eat as well as you can, and, get some movement in. And I think that that's important. It definitely, increases my mood when I can, take a walk outside. I mean, that was one of my saving graces during lockdown, when we couldn't do anything. We couldn't go anywhere. I mean, my daily walk around the waterfront where we were living at that time, it was my saving grace. It was a thing that cleared my head. It was a thing that reminded me that everything is going to be okay. Because for me, it's about seeing God's creation. Like when I see trees, I see the sky. When I see the water, these are all things that God created, and God also created me. So there is no limits to what can happen here. There's no limits to what I can do. But at the same time, we're not robots, right? So having a therapist, just over this past year has been really helpful, especially with people being able to do video sessions and doing the telehealth stuff. And my husband, he's, in therapy with me as well, because even though, we live in this uncertain world, our brains want everything to be certain. We want to know why. We want to know why did, our mother in love have to pass away?
Yeah.
why is this pandemic happening? Why are all these things that we wanted to happen not happening? You know, when is it going to end? Like all of those things are outside of our control. So one only thing we can do is to manage our mind and have some ways to cope and to get into a better space and to feel better. And so for me, it's all just been about feeling better. How can you feel better in this moment? How can I feel better in my relationship? How can we remember that we're all human and we live in this uncertain world? And, you know, getting help with that, you know, I think is very, very important, because especially as Black women, I think that people just expect us to be strong without a manual for how to be strong. We're not born with how to be a strong Black woman. People just assume that we're strong because we deal with things. We deal with things because otherwise we will die. We will die under the weight of everything that's going on. So I think that it's an act of power and an act of self-love to get the support that you need, whether it's a therapist, it's a coach. I prefer all of the above: a therapist, a coach, a mentor, a mastermind, girlfriends, people who they don't expect nothing of you, but girl, let me order you a drink. Let's watch Netflix. Let's take our bras off and put our pajamas on and just be who we are. All of that is necessary for us to be happy Black women and for us to be productive members of society, for us to be there for other people by first being there for ourselves. All of that is important. So without my therapist, girl, I don't know where I would be right now.
I love that. I love that. I love that. You know, I love that. All the self-care, the therapy, you know, the coaching, the mastermind, all of the above. Love that. And to take care of ourselves. How do you help, and how can you help people who've listened to you today, want to get in touch with you, want to get a bit of your magic? How can people get in touch with you?
Well, I'm very easy to find. So I'm all over social media. So you can find me on my website at happyblackwoman.com. That is where you can get on my email list and you can, you know, find out about all of the upcoming programs. I'm on Instagram. You can follow me at Rosetta Thurman on Instagram, and you can just DM me if you have questions about anything from the show. If you want to find out what's upcoming, I have events going on throughout the year. I have programs and courses going on throughout the year. The best way is to connect with me, get on the email list. Join the Facebook group, and you can find all of that on happyblackwoman.com or on Instagram at Rosetta Thurman.
Rosetta, it's been an absolute pleasure, an absolute joy to hear you. It's great to see you again. You're doing fine work. I'm a graduate of that work, and still following your journey, still getting the emails and still looking at happyblackwoman.com. So I'm an advocate and I give that testimonial for you. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to The Dawn Jarvis Show. If you enjoyed this episode, there are two things you can do. Number one, leave Dawn a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts. It would mean so much to her if you took a moment out of your time to post your thoughts on the show. It will help Dawn reach so many more people and help them with their well-being. Number two, subscribe to Dawn's email list, the Diverse Nurse Digest, using the link in the show notes. Until the next time, thank you and goodbye.